Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Johnny and I am the Conference Manager of Telecoms World Asia. I'm delighted to introduce today's topic webinar to you all, which will be focusing on positioning cybersecurity at the heart of telco business models, specifically looking at mitigating threats and increased DDoS attacks. The moderator for this session is President of Interglobix, Vinay Nagpal. Vinay will be joined by senior representatives from Nexusguard, Djibouti Telecom, Globalcom, and Gitki. Vinay will certainly introduce you all to the panelists as we proceed. If you do have any questions, please do post them in the Q&A icon that you can see at the bottom or top of your screen. And without further ado, I will pass you over to Vinay, who will begin this webinar. Thanks, Vinay.
Thank you, Johnny. Hello, everyone. My name is Vinay Nagpal. As Johnny mentioned, I'm the president of Interglobix. We provide global solutions for data centers and connectivity services. I'm also the executive director of the Internet Ecosystem Innovation Committee, which is a global committee formed to diversify the internet and for resiliency of the internet. I'm pleased to welcome you today to the Telecoms World Asia 2021 webinar, organized by Terrapin. The topic of the webinar today is positioning cybersecurity at the heart of telco models, mitigating threats and increased DDoS attacks. These last 18 months or so have clearly made us realize our dependency on the internet and its applications. The pandemic has forced millions of users to switch to working from home almost instantly. The increase in remote working clearly calls for a greater focus on cybersecurity because of the greater exposure to cyber risk. This is apparent, for example, from the fact that 47% of all individuals fall for a phishing scam while working from home. Cyber attackers see the pandemic as an opportunity to step up their criminal activities by exploiting the vulnerability of employees working from home, capitalizing on people's strong interest in the news related to the virus. And another important consideration is that the average cost of a data breach resulting from remote working can be as much as $137,000. If we look at 2021 and beyond, some of the key areas that the cybersecurity analysts have been focused on are that cyber criminals will target more remote workers. Organizations that rely on large security architectures such as VPNs will be targeted, because if you think about it, the remote workers' home devices are now in a way part of the corporate network. So they require the same kind of security treatment. The security budgets have been shrinking. Privacy experts turn to consolidated security solutions this year and beyond. The security threats in healthcare may cost lives as well, with hospitals being overwhelmed with influx of patients. They're prime target for hackers. The financial industry will see likely increased insecurity breaches, and the pandemic will speed the expansion of organizations into artificial intelligence, cloud technologies, and other innovative technologies to be adopted. So more people, in essence, are at a risk of data theft, and security is paramount more than ever before. And telecoms are facing increased security risk with rise in distributed denial of service attacks, and cybersecurity is moving to the forefront of the telecom business models, which is going to be the crux of our discussion today. The need for any telco to not only continue to digitalize, but align their transformation goals with their cybersecurity services is imperative. Employees working from home being part of the corporate network, enterprises are deploying new technologies, considering this network as part of their corporate LAN. And as these investments in new technologies, digital infrastructure grow, the implications of not having a strong cybersecurity infrastructure are large. Joining me today on the discussion are panelists from different parts of the world. We have three telecom carrier companies represented by the first one being Globalcom Holding from Lebanon. Then we have Djibouti Telecom from Africa, located in the Horn of Africa. Then we are also joined by Gitki, which is based out of Equatorial Guinea in the west coast of Central Africa. And we are very fortunate to have a very specialized managed security service provider that offers solutions to the industry, not only the telcos, but other facets of the industry, which we'll talk about. And this company is Nexusguard, who's also a sponsor of our webinar today. So without further ado, I'm going to just go quickly around the table and have the panelists give a quick introduction about themselves, their role, and how they fit into the cybersecurity industry. So Samar, we're going to start with you.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm really happy to participate in this conference. My name is Samar Khalil. I'm the CEO of Globalcom, and Globalcom is a telco operator based in Lebanon, Beirut. We are an ISP. We are also a data service provider, and we also provide managed services. I'm an engineer from background perspective, and through the years, I have more than 20 years of experience in the telco field, and now I'm the CEO of the group. So thank you, Vinay.
Thank you, Samar, for joining us. Farhan, over to you.
Thank you, Vinay. So I'm also very happy to take part on this event. I'm the strategy leads of the Ddos Telecom. Ddos Telecom is a global carrier in Horn Africa, and big global carrier in Horn Africa and telecom operator in the Western and Horn of Africa. And we provide internet mostly 25 countries in Western and Horn Africa. I'm in charge of business transformation. My specialties is I'm from the management level. I'm the CEO advisor. I'm in charge to drive the company transformation.
Thank you, Farhan, for that. Digital transformation obviously is a key and top of mind for CIOs as we pass through this time. I'm going to pass it on to our next speaker, which is Dr. Oscar.
Thank you, Vinay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Oscar, and thank you for inviting me in this webinar. Thank you very much. I'm the CEO of Ddr. As Vinay said, we are a telecom infrastructure company in Equatorial Guinea. We provide infrastructure to telecom operators, which who are the one that then provide these services to the end users. And our priority right now is to keep on extending this infrastructure to the so that the telecom operator can better provide those services. While also we are also, as you know, the more connection you have, the more attacks, DDoS attack you will also have. We also have in our strategy in implementing plans on how to deal with these things. And my background is in engineering as well, and I'm looking forward to exchanging with the other panelists. Thank you.
Perfect, Dr. Oscar. Thank you for that. So we got a good perspective from different telecom companies represented from different functions within the organization as well. And as I mentioned earlier, when we look at a managed security services provider, we're joined by Nexusguard. So Donnie, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Vinay. Hi, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Donnie. I'm from Nexusguard. I'm the director of product marketing at Nexusguard. And with my tenure, so I'm also part of the founding team of the company when we first started in 2008, so more than 13 years ago. I've taken many roles in the organization. So in my current role, I lead the company in designing and coming up with solutions for customers that can benefit from our service. So Nexusguard, we are a pure play DDoS managed security services company. So we focus very purely on helping our customers on the availability aspect. And of course, as cyber threats continue to grow and evolve, we have expanded our services to cover all walks of cyber threats and all the different kinds of threat actors, including hacking attacks, availability attacks, and all sorts of cyber attacks that any enterprise as well as a carrier will face. So we are very pleased and honored to be able to sponsor this very special session today. And I'm looking forward to the variable exchanges that we are going to have in the next 50 minutes or so. Back to you.
Absolutely, Donnie. Thank you for that. And I think you bring up a very good point in terms of as you look at expanding your own services, clearly the marketplace has been couldn't have been more opportune for wanting those services from a demand perspective. And I think when I look at your services, you have the telecom operators, you have the end users, and then you also have the data center operators, which has enterprises and other customers. But Donnie, I'd like to start with you to just get if you can help us set the foundation here about DDoS attacks. What are the key features, characteristics? How have these attacks changed in the last 18 months, as I gave some of the opening remarks? And how do you see them continue to evolving, and a company like yours offering super specialized services to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to the trend of DDoS attack, I'm sure many of our competitors and the panelists here would agree. It is a quite an easy trend to look at. But when it comes to looking at the DDoS from a trend perspective, one of the ways we can look at it is at its size and its complexity. On size, it is pretty straightforward. Okay, as more contents are being consumed over the internet, internet backbone consistently being upgraded, we are approaching where 400 gigs backbones are now quick becoming the norm, whereas many other regions, they are catching up with the 100 gig backbones. And not to mention the number of IoT devices on the internet increasing so much, so exponentially. Recently, I was looking at some of the reports, and some industry specialists are estimating that there's about 46 billion IoT devices. You were just talking about IoT devices, and incidentally, yesterday, I just bought a third tablet for my daughter, because we are all working from home. We have to do home-based learning, right? And I was sitting at the sofa looking at the stack of devices being charged. I took a quick stock take of the devices I've had at home. So on quick count, just in my household, I have about 20 over devices directly connected to the internet. Some on its own individual connection, some having a shared connection with my home broadband. But I digress. The amount of these IoT devices, as well as our infrastructure being upgraded, only lends to one thing. Attackers now have much more resources and potential botnets at their disposal to be able to launch the largest internet. As it is, we are already at the point whereby the attacks that we see on the internet now are serious overkill. At Nexusguard, we mitigate 100 gigs of attacks, attacks that are in a 200 to 300 gig size on a daily basis. It's a very, very common occurrence. But if we look at it, the attackers don't really need such a big attack, because any attack that is much more, a fraction of those size could already take down anybody. So this is already an overkill. In fact, although we do see a lot of these large size attacks, and we see this trend continue to go upwards, we are hearing a lot more about the terabit scale attack, and I think this is going to be more and more common. Size is going to go upwards. But we also see that a lot of majority of these attacks are actually within the smaller range. And I'm talking about like 10 gigs plus minus. These kind of attacks are mainly the majority of the attacks that we are seeing, enterprise are seeing. And this is also to do with the complexity of attacks. Attackers are now becoming more sophisticated, because they're not just trying to throw big volume attacks at you, trying to overwhelm your network devices. But they're also very clever now. They are very sophisticated. They actually design, they look at the targets, they examine how a CSP operates, especially in terms of our business model, and they craft attacks to bypass typical traditional mitigation strategy and technologies, and leave the CSP helpless when it comes to certain kind of attacks. So we see that the trend will continue this way. Attackers will continue to be smarter and smarter, where they have more tools at their disposal. They have a longer range of botnets to overtake and bring it as part of their arsenal. And where these devices are connected 24/7, they have now unlimited resources that they can use. So they can now focus their energy on crafting much more targeted and smart attacks to bypass whatever technologies out there in the market. In order for us to stay ahead of this competition, we have to take a very different approach. Okay, we have to take defense in depth, defense in breadth. I'm sure many of these engineers would know what I'm talking about. But the idea is our strategy has to be dynamic. Okay, it is no longer a game where you can focus on a single technology or a single vendor and try to hope for the best. That's not going to work. Okay, we have to stay ahead of the game. Get all the information at the tips of our fingers, and then put those in place, and then come up with a dynamic strategy that is growing together with the attackers, as well as our customers, as well as our business. And that's where Nexusguard is here to help.
Absolutely, Donnie. I think you couldn't have said it better when you talked about the best of breed solutions, because at the end of the day, a key part of your value proposition is that you're technology agnostic. You take the best of the breed in terms of different vendors, different solutions, package it together and offer it as a fully managed service with established SLAs. Looking at it on the other side from a CSP perspective, for companies like Globalcom, Djibouti Telecom, Gitki, somewhere I'm going to start with you. What implications do you see that from your organization standpoint for such attacks as they're increasing both in terms of frequency, sophistication? I mean, obviously for someone like you to have to kind of quote unquote keep up with it, I'm sure it's got to give you some sort of sleepless nights, if I may, to always trying to catch up.
Yes, actually, I do agree with Donnie, because we are seeing attacks, volumetric attacks that are becoming bigger and bigger. We're also seeing small attacks like in the range of 10 gig. Some of them are really, we're also seeing slow and low attacks, and these are targeting specific customers like financial institutions. And we're seeing a lot of these. And the main issue with attacks, the main impact is that it has a short term and a long term. On the short term, it's going to disrupt your service. However, and if these attacks become bigger and bigger, and if your service gets interrupted, then there is a trust issue with your customers. And on the long run, you might lose customers, you will lose part of your customer base, and you will be also, of course, losing revenue. So the impact of having DDoS attacks is really huge on networks. I'd like to add something on the causes of these attacks. As you know, with COVID-19 and the new trend of working from home, we've seen also that gaming has also increased worldwide. And some of the attacks are targeting gamers. And as much as that could sound simple, but it's really one of the causes of the increase of attacks these days on the network, and especially after the COVID-19 crisis and everything. So getting back to the impact, so these are short-term and long-term, and the long-term are really very dangerous to have if you don't have the real strategy to mitigate these attacks.
Absolutely. I think when you mentioned trust, I mean, with the customers, that equates to potential lost customer, lost revenue. So it's all kind of integrated together. And yeah, the gaming industry has tremendously exploded in this, especially in this past year. A lot of us are locked on in homes, and you know, with a lot more time on our hands, are spending more time you know, with our consoles and on our gaming platforms. Farhan, from Djibouti Telecom's perspective as a strategic advisor to the CEO focused on digital transformation, I'm sure you got to wear different hats in any given day. How do you tackle this you know, phenomena of you know, the evolution of these attacks and cybersecurity, and what approach do you take? I'm sorry, Farhan, you're on mute. You got to unmute yourself, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. I think today all telcos have awareness the problem of security issue and the DDoS attack. Actually, in Djibouti Telecom, we have a strategy of security and policy to manage the two important components of the we can say two perspectives of securities. One is concerning the infrastructure, and other part is the second strategy is concerning the customer. How we can manage the policies with the customer, how we can responsibilize, and so on. And in the level of infrastructure, we have a strategy that we include in the beginning of the installing on the deployment, what we call it the principle of design. So we try to influence the all operational level to consider the security issue as very, very important as the first layers of the implementing of the network security. So we try to push people to an operational level to understand the challenges of this business continuity. So we have a strategy, and we consider, I think it's very important for all operators and telcos to understand that the security will be something that will be managed in government, company governance level. And after we can, yeah, we can deploy an operational level. But first of all, it's a case strategic case strategy issue for telcos.
Absolutely. I think that constant, even innovation in the strategy is extremely important. Dr. Oscar, if we look at your company, and clearly, I mean, with your background, you've had a lot of emphasis at GitKey on the subsea aspect with several subsea cable landings and the agreements you've been involved in. That international capacity, once it lands in Equatorial Guinea, it gets distributed further to different places. And what's your approach been, and what's your observation been, if I may ask, over the last year or so when it comes to cybersecurity attacks and DDoS attacks?
Thank you, Rana. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Well, as I said at the beginning, our main priority right now is, and although we don't have the same amount of attacks as in Europe or Asia or other part of the world here in Africa, our priority has always been to try and extend this infrastructure so that the operator can take advantage of it. But however, Sama mentioned something, and we all agree on that during COVID, we have seen a lot of people working from home, and this has also increased the amount of attacks that all the users, including myself, we are having due to the DDoS or cybersecurity problems, especially with gamers. It might seem to be smaller. For example, here in Equatorial Guinea, we do have a lot of capacity that goes into gamers as well. And these people, they are also experiencing attacks. What are the strategies that HIT is taking towards these type of things? I think nowadays, as the first panelist mentioned, we need to all have a very dynamic approach to this. There is not a single solution to this. We have to consider now different solutions that can adapt quickly to the realities, and because nowadays the attacks have become more sophisticated than they used to be. At HIT, we have integrated this approach, and we also have a specific department that is taking care of this, so that we can be more aware with this type of problem and solve them in real time.
Okay, that's very well said. And from a subsea perspective, if I may ask, I believe you've been involved in a lot of agreement negotiations and bringing the international capacity. How's that worked out?
Well, when it comes to the subsea cable, we still don't really have a lot of amount of cyber attacks to the subsea cables, but for now, things still being on the terrestrial cables.
Okay, perfect, makes sense. And I'd like to open this next one up for the panelists. When it comes to the role that telcos play, the evolution in terms of the security team traditionally being part of the network team versus a different model. And I know some of you have some certain thoughts on that and experiences as well. I'd like to understand, like, what are the different things that a telco operator can do, and what have you been doing differently to address these attacks from a carrier perspective? What challenges do you see in productizing and monetizing the DDoS protection? And it's an open question. Anyone, Samar, Farhan, I'm assuming one of you would like to jump right in. Here we go.
I can comment on that. Actually, it's a journey, if I may say that. So to move from from a telco operator where the security is handled by the network team, and then to move to a separate team that is fully dedicated for security. I can consider that this is a journey, and there are a lot of challenges in there. So if we talk a little bit about the challenges of transforming the telco from a traditional telco giving internet services or maybe connectivity or infrastructure to a security service provider, then we can look first of all at the recruitment. There are a lot of challenges in recruitment and in hiring the right talent to do the job. There is also the change of the mindset. So you have to transform the mindset of your employees internally to become more security aware and to work towards the same objectives. So everyone should be aligned around this strategic decision of transforming the company. There is also the resistance to change. So some of the people wouldn't want to really go out of the traditional services, and they have hard times coping with the new services, whether from sales perspective or from technical perspective. And you have to create all the processes. So creating the processes around services and service security services and managed services, this is also a real challenge because it's not related to the same it's not the same service, it's totally different, and the approach is different. So these are actually the challenges. And transforming the company into a service provider, this is very important because you could really monetize your infrastructure when it comes to the security team who is handling all your security services. So the customer awareness is very important. And I think that during the past year, people changed, and we've seen this change in enterprises, in banks, and even in normal residential users. Everyone now is aware of the security and would like to go with a telco provider for security services. So that's it.
Yeah, increased awareness, more willingness to kind of look to experts from that perspective. Yes, I think Dr. Oscar, you have something to add? Or Farhan?
Well, I would just add from what Sama said that as a customer, Vinay, you and I are worried, I think, of two things: that our data is protected, and if you can keep enjoying the service as well. So for this, I think telecom operator, they have to really be transparent to their customers. This is very important because telecom operators, they have to keep on, they have to tell to their end users what is happening to their network, if they're having security issues, or how to solve them and assist them when needed as well. They have to also provide guidance in this, how to approach this type of problem themselves as well. So overall, to me, it's very important. As Sama says, the customer awareness is very important, and transparent, being transparent in our side as a telecom operators, it will also help, and is very, very critical as well in tackling this problem. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's very well said. And in fact, it's quite timely. Usually I like to keep an eye out for audience's questions as well. The first question that we have is related to exactly what we were discussing. This is from Telecom Malaysia. And thank you for the question. The question is, what are the key challenges for telcos in mitigating DDoS attacks? So, which I think we've kind of you started addressing that in terms of some of the challenges. If there's anything else you'd like to add, please feel free.
Yes, for DDoS, well, you should have like a 24/7 team ready to answer that. I mean, this is the lesson learned that we had, because we had a lot of attacks like 3 years ago that brought down our network, and we've learned that Dedication is very important. So you need to have a dedicated team working on that, the right tools, of course, and the right technology and the right processes. And most of all, you need to communicate, like Dr. Oscar said. So you need to be transparent and inform your customers about what's happening, and not really blame the router or the switch. So it's a series of things. So from human resources to technical resources and to processes that are going to link everything together, including the customer.
Yeah, to add on to that, I totally agree. So transparency in our experience is utmost important to customers and to the organization, especially in the world of cybersecurity. So we have a very favorite saying of saying that, in cybersecurity, being engineers, I'm sure that all the engineers will agree that nothing is absolute. There is no such thing as 100% uptime guarantee, SLA. Security are built to fail. The most important thing is how you actually learn from each of these mistakes to prevent this from happening again. So transparency with the customers is very important. If you face a mistake, okay, something happened, an attack got bypassed, own the mistake, okay, explain what happened, learn from it, and then to mitigate that. But to add on that, I think from a telco perspective, Oscar talked about implementing a very dynamic solution. Sama talked about the difficulties of operating the solution to help protect the infrastructure. The problem with DDoS attacks, it's a cloud problem. It's not just originating within the country where the attacks are going to be coming from. It's going to be coming from the whole world. So the problem with current traditional approaches of just buying an appliance or technology and then hoping that will solve all the problem is going to be limited. We are talking about hundreds and hundreds of gigs of mitigation of attack traffic being thrown from the whole world. So there is an issue of the bottleneck being your appliance and your upstream. So every CSPs, no matter how big they are, they're going to have a bottleneck somewhere along that whole value chain. It could be an appliance, it could be a routers, it could be an upstream, it could be a firewall, it could be your multi-million-dollar appliance. There's going to be a limit somewhere. And not to mention that these attacks are coming from all over the world. It might not even have reached your network. It could have been stuck somewhere in the upstream, where the attack is originating for. It could have already congested that network itself. So the DDoS problem is not something that the ISP can solve by himself. So there's always a reliance or the dependency on other service providers in the cloud. So it is important to create a network of of alliances or maybe a service provider to be able to share. So it's something that some other CSPs are trying to build. And from a cloud provider perspective, that's where we come in. So in our course of business, we protect a lot of carriers in the sense that they have their own strategies, much like Farhan and Djibouti Telecom. You guys have your own technology, but the cloud is one piece that cannot be overlooked. And this is something that ISP cannot be solved by himself. On one more point, sophistication of attacks is these attacks, right? As a CSP, your network is large and you serve a lot of customers. And Sama mentioned some of these very touchy issues. When there are attacks that are crafted, so in Nexusguard, we have seen a lot of attacks. One of these is what we call the bit and piece attacks. The bit and piece attacks, or in other parts of the world, they call it the carpet bombing attacks, are attacks that are designed to bypass the CSPs. So instead of just attacking a certain customer, throwing 100 gigs of attack on one single IP, which would raise your alarm, attackers have been found to diversify these attacks across your multiple subnets. So instead of attacking one IP address, a smart attacker would attack 500 of your IP address, each with 50 meg attacks. You won't be able to see anything, but you see that your lines are being congested. So there are a lot of ways that attackers are now very creative, and we find that they are now focusing their attention on CSPs. And I guess that sums up, the intentions and the aspiration of CSPs now becoming more aware of this problem. Back to you, Vinny.
Yeah, Donnie, I think you bring up two very important points. One is nothing is absolute, right? It's important to be transparent with your customers. Security is meant to fail, how you handle it, to have regular communication. And the second point I picked up was collaboration, was alliances, was kind of coming together, lessons learned. Can you, Donnie, talk a little bit about how does your anti-DDoS solutions capture this growing sector of protection for DDoS protection service market, and how are you looking to capitalize on the ability to collaborate, to have alliances and partnership, from your perspective?
Yeah, so our approach to DDoS mitigation is born from the cloud. So Nexusguard has been, since our inception, a cloud-based company. So over the past 3 years, we've looked at the problem more from a carrier perspective. So instead of just offering a solution, we thought instead of just offering a solution, like a technology where a carrier purchases it and then decides what to do with it and maybe get it right or get it wrong. Hopefully you get it right and then you'll be able to be as successful as some of our panelists here. We thought that, at the end of the day, it's all the customer's experience that counts. So Nexusguard today is not just about a company that delivers a piece of appliance or technology for a carrier. We go way beyond that. So we bundle it as a managed security service offering. So we offer people process technology. So we actually take all that Sama has mentioned, okay, including the severe shortage of manpower, training, retention. The Farhan has mentioned strategy, how to support the process and operation support, productization. Oscar has talked about how attacks are growing. Because if you buy an appliance, the appliance will go out end of life. Okay, the appliance is the most you can do with an appliance is to upgrade the firmware, so on and so forth. Then that piece of appliance in 3 to 5 years will go out of service or maybe end of life, end of support. So what we have done is to design an offering which is dynamic and living, and it's going to be maintained by our team. So our team actually takes care of the technology. We constantly upgrade it, with frequent launches and services. Think of it as a platform, but this platform is bundled into a box that you put into an environment, which is at the same time bundled together with a Nexusguard cloud. So it's no longer just a traditional offering like by traditional vendor providers that provides a simple one-piece box of solution. It's all backed up by Nexusguard. So our business model is this. We want CSPs to be successful, like Sama and Lebanon in Globalcom. So we put together all those that we have learned over our 13 years of existence. We bundle that, and then we make it into a scalable offering where we bring to each CSPs. And we want to make it such that it's easier and it is a higher rate of success for them to implement the service, to protect themselves, and to deliver a protection service for their companies, customers.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Summer, I want to come back to you in terms of cybersecurity and the importance of that to a CSP. How has that changed your business model? And looking ahead, what do you see as some of the opportunities for CSPs to kind of capitalize on when it comes to offering services?
Yes, security is becoming a core service. So it's not anymore like a value add service, but rather a core service. And this is where we're heading. And in our case, we're not only working on DDoS attacks, we're offering security services like managed SOC, SIM solutions, anti-malware. So we're going the extra mile with not only DDoS attacks, but we have to step into a higher level of complexity in security services. And that's why they're becoming a core services. So not only DDoS, but all security concerns need to be addressed. Even sometimes we do some consultancies for customers who would like to know what's going on or how they can improve their network. We're doing some pen testing solutions. So it's going through a complete portfolio of services. And I think this is where telcos need to go, and because they excel in services, and this is what they do, and expanding to security services should be the next the next thing that they have to do.
Absolutely. Very well said. Farhan
Yes.
and Dr. Oscar, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, in terms of the telco service delivery, I think there is maybe we can find two approaches as a new model to monetize the security issue with the customer. Even we can develop a logic of the business ecosystem. Why the telecom was trying to manage the level of strategy and to maybe to outsourcing as a third party the security capabilities. Or we have the second approach is to develop internally the security capabilities. This will take maybe a lot of time because you need to have talent skills and this is not our core business, but we can try to manage as a service manager, and after we can use as a third party with the right capabilities and in order to follow what is existing in the best practice of the market. There is, I think, a model to follow. So the pattern of today is to develop the business ecosystem in a digital interaction.
Absolutely. Thank you for that additional perspective. I'm seeing a couple of more questions. Oscar, go ahead.
Yeah, if you may, Vinay, thank you. There are two important things that I would like to address. I think Donnie mentioned something that to me is very, very important, which is the network of alliances. If we can achieve this, I think we will be able, telco operator will be able to solve a lot of problems and take a much more robust answer to these attacks. But there is a problem. There is a problem of trust, because you don't know. I think Donnie will agree with this. You don't know if you pass on, if you have received a DDoS attack and you pass this information to your colleagues or your competitor, you don't know what's going to happen with this information. Then I think maybe the solution is, if we can, as we are working for a solution for network of alliances, is to also work with the local authorities that will help protect each of these operators' information. And coming to what also, how we can monetize the different solutions that we have. Before we were offering a solution at the network layer, and now we are also doing it also at the service layer, where not only operators are able to see all the different attacks that are coming to their network, but also to see what is the capacity, what type of capacity their customers are consuming the most, so that they can organize their marketing strategy around that and monetize their services as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think that alignment of the strategies with the ability to monetize is going to go a long way from a scalability perspective as well. Thank you for that additional perspective there, Dr. Oscar. I have the next question that I'd like to open up now. And by the way, just as a quick reminder for the audience, it's a great opportunity for everyone to ask questions of our expert panelists. So please feel free to do so. And thank you for those who have already sent their questions. This one's for you, Donnie. How is Nexusguard different from Netscout, Arbor, or any other traditional anti-DDoS solutions? And this question comes from time.com, head of networks.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I think I addressed part of the questions just now in the earlier conversation. So the Arbor is one of the pioneers, and one of the very key, they have one of the largest market share on the CSP market, that they offer their key product being in flow analysis, network visibility solutions, as well as DDoS mitigation. So they offer great appliances, technology to help customers mitigate DDoS attacks. But that's the only same overlap that we have with Arbor. So apart from appliances I mentioned earlier, so Nexusguard, we pride ourselves on a very unique offering. It's a very innovative business model where we see a lot of these companies that are trying to come up with the same offering. So Nexusguard was born from a cloud company. We understand how cloud works. Okay, we are first and foremost a cloud operators. Now we have about 16 shopping centers around the world. We are in the cloud first. So we used to use a lot of these off-the-shelf devices. We put together solutions. So we understand how it means to deliver a end result to customers, including the enterprise customers, into carriers, customers like carriers themselves. We're not about operating, because there's a whole lot of difference between operating a piece of technology and delivering an outcome that involves processes, your training and personnel, your escalation procedures, incident response, troubleshooting, handling customer complaints. So we know what it takes to deliver a service. So now the difference is this: we, in part of our offering, we take that expertise and we impart, and it's part of the business offerings to CSPs. It's no longer just about delivering a piece of appliance or technology. It's about delivering a solution that they can now not just use for themselves, but turn around and offer it to their customers in their own branding and their own brand, taking advantage of their own brand equity and start to monetize on it. So the solution that we have are created to for multi-tenancy. So each of their customers, so it's built in with all the business logics, business rules, billing. So they can straight away turn it around, put on their own scheme and start to sell. Say, for example, I'm going to bring out a few examples. They can now sell from 0 to 1, so from nothing. They can now start to sell a clean pipe service. The customers will, each of these customers that onboard to that clean pipe service will now see their own telco branded dashboards with the full dashboard, with full visibility, with their own customized reporting, their own visibility, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, there's SLA tied to it. So this whole process now all built into a single offering for the customer. So that's just one of the
yeah. I think the SLA component goes a long way, which I mentioned earlier as well. So Donnie, you do allow white labeling of your service as well, which is very good to know. From what I could gather. I do have the next question from Vinay Nagpal. You ready for this, Donnie? It comes from me. As I'm hearing you talk, I'm curious to learn about your product development roadmap, because I would imagine it's got to be quite a complex, if I may, process to always try to, with everything you talked about, one is the packaging of the solution, one is the using the best of breed technology, catering to your end customers, but you got to have, I would imagine, a very robust, well thought through product roadmap, product development life cycle. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a very hot topic within the organization. So we are first and foremost, we are not an appliance manufacturer. We are, if you ask ourselves, we are already a software development company that is focused on DDoS. So a big part of our workforce is focused on development. So our appliance, as opposed to an appliance, ours is really a living and breathing platform on the internet. Okay, so as much as any SaaS offering. So a lot of our activities and a lot of our learnings are what we gather from CSPs. So based on what we have, okay, we collect a lot of these use cases from these carriers that we have been serving for these past few years. We bring them into our development, and because this is, so the way that our platform is architected is very modular, okay, microservices, all the Dockers and all the technologies. We are able to spin up services in modular systems. So we could say, for example, tomorrow identify that there's this key feature we need to do in the WAF module, the web application firewall module. Okay, we could, our WAF team will develop that particular key technology, and then we will straight away update it into the customer's platform. Okay, fully transparent. We have a blue-green platform so that you can actually test out the service before the CSPs actually agrees to activate this service. So everything can be done concurrently. So everything, so our upgrades are not in the form of a firmware, because everything is in the cloud. So our customers, we turn around, okay, we listen to our carrier partners, and then this roadmap thing is a very dynamic thing. Every few months it changes, and every few months we get, we consistently get a lot of requests from our customers. So managing this roadmap is like you rightfully pointed out, is one of my biggest tasks. And so we often share our roadmap with our partners and our customers, and so that they know, what's coming up within the next few weeks or few months. And I think that's one of the key things that we so it's yeah. Admittedly, it's a very easy task. Yeah. You're right.
Having Donnie, having spent a good portion of my career in product management, I had to ask that question as we were having this discussion. So I'm going to take a next question from the audience here. In general, compared to other type of cybersecurity attacks, have you seen a rise in DDoS attacks over the past year? Well, yes. Or also, especially in Africa's telcos and their customers. And the question comes from Theo, representing Bofinet. So yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Maybe
go ahead.
You can pass the question to Oscar, since he's in the Africa regions. Why don't you take the questions? Do you see a lot of attacks coming in the Africa region? I have the answer, but let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Africa, as more and more people are connected online, we can see a rise also of DDoS attack coming as well. But more of it, we don't really see a lot of attacks here in Equatorial Guinea or Central Africa region, but you do have most of these attacks, a lot of them in South Africa, in East Africa, where the main reason is financial, or it can also be on healthcare and other things. But those are the regions where you have a lot of attacks, and also in North Africa. In our region, these things get still a little bit low. Yes, we have attacks, but not compared to all these different regions.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think generally speaking, the short answer is DDoS are on the rise. So we do like any other security company, we release a lot of these DDoS reports. So the general evidence points that attacks frequency, size, occurrences are always on the rise, especially in countries like Latin America, Africa region. You rightfully pointed out North and South Africa. So we have seen a lot of activities in South Africa and Middle East as well, and of course in the Europe region. Asia is definitely a hotbed. Okay, India and the other countries where the internet is on the rise, especially where backbone infrastructures are now accelerating. In mature markets like the US, like Europe, and like Singapore markets where it's already rather developed. Okay, it's already there. But we are seeing a lot of activities in growing upcoming markets where internet is on the like that.
Sure. I'm going to take this one last question from the audience, and then I'm going to wrap it up in a couple of minutes here. So Donnie, this one is a follow-up, I think, from Fiokok Chong. How does Nexusguard detect a customer's IP that it belongs to an ISP under attack? Does the customer traffic need to be directed to Nexusguard Cloud?
So for customers, so we talk about this as an often. So this is a very typical question. So Nexusguard being a cloud company, and I guess this would also apply to some of our panelists as well. So one of the most common ways to do monitoring without having to be inline is to do what we call remote DDoS monitoring, either by on-prem device or either by sending telemetry in the form of a router flow. So it could be if you're operating a Juniper router or Cisco router, you could share NetFlow. There's S-Flow, there are other telemetry. So basically you send that telemetry either to a local appliance or to a Nexusguard collector in the cloud, or even to some of these, some of our panelist companies, if they do offer such a service, you send the flow. So they will monitor and they will present this analysis into a form of a dashboard. And in the case of an attack, that's where you actually do some BGP-based routing. You redirect so that the Nexusguard or any of our CSPs here can originate the traffic. The traffic goes to that CSPs. They have it scrubbed, and then they return the traffic back to you over a GRE tunnel, for instance. Yeah, so that's a typical way of how it works. So network has to be able to do these BGP capabilities before they can actually do and enjoy such a service.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay, my last question for the panelists, 30 seconds or less, each one of you, starting with Dr. Oscar. What keeps you up at night, and what do you think we could have done differently as an industry? It would help if you unmuted, please. Trust me, it happens to the best of us. Don't.
Sorry.
No
I mean,
worries.
the DDoS attack keep me up at night, and I think what we should now work towards is to collaborate more with other telcos companies. We need to collaborate more also with the government, both nationally and internationally. All the telcos companies should also be like more proactive and less reactive towards tackling this problem. We should, last but not least, at least have extensive monitoring and has predictive capabilities powered by AI and analytics.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Farhan, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Evina. So I think it is very important, I say, Oscar. So we have to align technology, the people, the process, and all of this component to manage the security and to have business continuity always. So the alignment is a more important term for me.
Alignment, that's a good one. Samar, over to you.
Yes, the most important challenge actually is to keep up with what's going on worldwide, and this is a very fast-moving field, and you need to be aware of all the things that are happening, whether with other companies or with telco providers or even with enterprises. So keeping up with the technology is a challenging task, and of course, what keeps us at night awake is the service in itself. So any disruption of service could be very dangerous. And in that, I have to say also now ransomwares that are increasing more and more. So security now is not only about stealing your data; it's also about killing your business. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. So Donnie, so far we have proactiveness, alignment, keeping up with technology, ransomware. I'm going to hand over to you for your thoughts. And then after that, I'll let you do the closing remarks as well, Donnie.
Yeah. So just to pick up on the last point in terms of ransomware. So in our latest report, this is also a summary of our Nexusguard threat report and the forecast. We see that in 2022 and 2021, we're going to see an uptick in terms of ransomware attacks. So as a reason of, I'm sure some of you might have seen 3 weeks ago there was a Beirut news. Oh wait, Belgium. Some ISPs was actually struck by DDoS attack, and because as a result of a ransomware and all this kind of attack. So DDoS ransomware is going to be a key thing in 2021. So CSPs watch out for that. So I think all the alignment issues, I totally agree with Oscar and Farhan in terms of what they have mentioned.
Okay, fantastic. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for the great discussion today, or the audience for their questions and the panelists. Donnie, I would like to turn it back to you. I think you have some closing remarks for the team as well.
Yeah. So before we close off, I would like to thank everybody for joining, and thank you, Samar, Dr. Oscar, and Farhan for joining. Before I close off, I would like to end with a sharing. So we didn't really have much time to share the Nexusguard offering, but over this next 2 years, okay, in fact, we are launching a program in what we call the Transformation Alliance Partner 100 program. So Nexusguard is going to be launching a program to enable 100 CSPs with 100 Gbps worth of mitigation appliance. So in our course of talking to CSPs, we understand that the product teams, the product directors, the product management team, as well as the business team, have always wanted to embark on this managed security service offering journey. But often at times, one of the key obstacle is justifying the budget. Okay, the management will tell you, show me the money, show me the forecast, then I'll adjust you the budget. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing. So understanding this challenge, we embark on this TAP 100 program. We will be identifying 100 CSPs over the course of the next year, in which we will be actually giving out these appliances. So we will be actually sponsoring this technology to help the CSP kickstart their journey to become equipped with the technology and to be able to start to sell services to their customers on top of protecting ourselves. We will bundle this product, okay, and we commit that within from day 1 up to day 90, okay, we will have this fully implemented with very low risk for the CSPs, as long as they commit to the willingness to actually look into this service to offer it as a service to their customers. Nexusguard will sponsor this hardware and help them get them on the road to success in this field. So if you're interested in this, it doesn't matter whether you are using any existing technology. So our technology is agnostic. You can already be using one of the bigger boys or the existing vendors. That's not a problem because the engineering team, technical team relies on those to protect, first and foremost, yourself, your own infrastructure. But if you have the aspiration to be able to try to productize this service, don't try to crack your head over it because it's okay if you are not really familiar with this because rightfully it's a different product like what Sama has rightfully pointed out. That's what we are here to help. So we already have the experience, the packaging, the processes all bundled together, ready to go. Talk to us. Our partner support team will engage you, understand your business, and then put in place an offering that you can safely and easily, and most importantly, without any capex upfront, get right into the game. Thank you for your time. I'll pass it back to Vinny.
Thank you, Donnie. And I believe, Donnie, the program is called the Transformational Alliance Partner Program. And I think to truly do something transformational, you have to be technology agnostic, you have to have a partnership approach, and you have to kind of open it up to the community. And you're doing all of that. So really applaud you and your vision for that. Once again, with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining the session today. Thank you to all the panelists for joining and for everyone who asked questions as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vinay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you, Donnie.
Bye.
Thank you, Vinay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks
Bye.
to Mark, Donnie, Farhan, and Dr. Oscar.
Thanks, yeah. Thanks
The
to,
webinar
Jonathan.
will be available
Yeah.
on demand as well via our website for anybody that signed in late. And if you
Truth,
do look
yes,
in the
yes,
chat box as well, we would appreciate if you could fill in the post-webinar survey too. Thanks again to Vinny, the panelists, and Nexusguard.
I want to keep also to discuss more with Donnie, to maybe to have a testing approach to our cloud infrastructure. So I will try to contact him through the LinkedIn or
I am
through
definitely pleased to keep in touch with the panelists.
yeah.
We have a lot more to learn from you guys as well.
Good.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.